Hello and welcome to Revolutionary Mental Health. I'm your host, Debbie Nelson, and this is a labor of love, something that I truly believe in, that the world is thirsty for and seeking for. You see, I started this mission 12 years ago in the industry of mental health, and through it I've talked to thousands of people. And through it, I couldn't forget how many people were looking for help. I mean, real help. Revolutionary help. We think it's revolutionary, but the truth is many of these things are going back to nature. So this podcast has been started to connect you with resources and people, real live doctors that have hopped the fence, that are trying to bring integrative approaches to a world of people who are desperately seeking it. So I'm here to change the world, and I'm not alone. So I'm happy to introduce an amazing woman who started out as an activist and took to some social media platforms as a traditionally trained MD, and decided that she wanted to take her practice in a whole new direction to help heal people in a different way. And I'm happy to introduce Dr. Demir.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi.
Love you. Thank you.
So Dr. Demir, you are doing things, you were trained. Give us a little bit of background. I always like to say, because when someone meets someone like this, they're like, how does a traditional doctor, and especially because your mother's a doctor.
Correct.
And how do you get from that traditional background to start venturing into like the world of where you're at right now? I mean, what's your story? What made you thrive into this?
Oh, thank you. It's a long and deep story, as I think it is for many of us who have gone into medicine and traditional training, really with these ideas of helping communities and people and ourselves, and then getting disillusioned. Like, how do you find yourself then wanting to leave the system, and then what do you create outside the system? It's a long story, but like you said, my mother is a physician, so I grew up very much in that realm of service, helping. I grew up making house calls with my mother, who was a pediatrician when I was a child, and I could really see that this was an amazing way to serve communities and people. So that's really what got me into wanting to go into medicine. Although prior to medicine, I spent time on Capitol Hill, and then I spent time a little bit in banking. I had become super disillusioned by the system and decided, okay, I'm going to go into medicine because this is clearly going to be different. I was really interested in understanding just complex patterns. I think, in the olden days, that's what physicians were, right? Pillars of society and artists and just these deep thinkers that wanted to understand, what does it mean to be a human? What does it mean to be well? What is the meaning of life? And so having all these questions, I had also started doing a public health master's. So I was really getting curious about health and illness and wellness and all of the different permutations at the societal level. So I figured, okay, maybe going into medicine through medical school, I may be able to actually also understand the more micro pieces, because I was getting a lot of the macro. So I went into medicine really, really excited. I remember when I got accepted, I remember I cried tears of joy. So I was really excited to become a physician. Shortly after, though, once I started my training, I realized, like, this is also not working very well. Leaving banking and having spent some time on Capitol Hill, I knew that those were not working, but I didn't expect the medical system to be just as broken. But in a way, if you think about it, it really does more damage, like,
Right.
direct damage to humanhood. So very quickly after my first year, I realized, oh my God, this is a big mistake. Like, what am I going to do? But by then, I was already in medical school. I had so many people around me, including my mother, like, this is such a privilege. You must finish this. You must go through. Because I was really thinking about quitting at that point. I was like, this is not what I signed up for. But I just kept going. And in all honesty, I'm really grateful today that I kept going, because the things I were to see and experience firsthand in the, following 4 or 5 years, um, I could have never spoken about had I not seen them so intimately from so many different perspectives. And so I kept going. I, took different breaks. I did several externships, and, just I was inquiring, but also really seeing how deeply broken the medical system was. So after my second year of medical school, after I took my boards, I really started getting a lot of psychic messages that I didn't know at the time, but now I know, that said, you must take time to contemplate. You must take time to contemplate. And interestingly, right around that time, I just started having a lot of devotees come through my field. And so that was my first attempt to leaving the medical system. I left for a year. I lived out in the New Mexico desert for 6 months, at the time, out of my truck with my dog, dispersed camping, not talking to anyone, and really went into this very, very deep contemplation about what's the meaning of life? Why am I here? What am I doing? What do I want to do? And really, at the end of that year-long journey, I went back home. I was also like really drawn to go back to my home country of Turkey. I did a lot of ancestral pilgrimage and just lots of different things. And at the end of that year, I was clearly shown, like, you must finish this. You must go back, as hard as it's going to be, and really finish this off. So I did. I went back. I finished medical school. And at the time, I was thinking I was not going to do a residency. But once I was in medical school, I, kind of changed my mind, and I started applying to residencies, and I really liked a program out in New York. So I went into a psychiatry residency out in New York's, around Long Island, New York. Um, and then really, I was once again hit by the secondary. I was working in inpatient psych wards, just really seeing intimately how deeply broken our system is, how much we don't have any resources that actually truly work. But instead of saying none of these things really work, we're all under this, blindfold that said, well, this is the best we have. And this is how we, keep mental health, mental illness at check, pretty much. But I just started feeling really deeply, deeply disturbed, because I was like working with 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, multiple medications. I was seeing both sides, like the first comers, how once they come through the psychiatric system, what happens to them. As well, I was seeing people who'd been in the system for years and years, post many, many medications, where they end up. So at that point, I just really could not be in this cognitively dissonant state anymore, because I was ordering medications for people to be injected with. I was signing court papers against people's wills, right? So it really started to get into my psyche that, like, I was not being a good person doing what I was doing. And then COVID happened, which showed me yet another layer of, like, you know, literally all of us were sacrificing our 20s, 30s, just working hour after hour after hour. And then here was this crisis, and none of the administration really cared all that much about the people that were there day in and day out, every single day. And I had already become a mother by then. So my priorities had really shifted, and I was just no longer interested in trying to receive a stamp of approval. That's really what it comes down to. By then I was starting my third year of psychiatry residency. And I remember telling my partner at the time, if I finish this just to get this stamp, I'm going to be really disappointed in myself. And when I heard myself say that, something just really shifted for me, that like I was aware that this is not what I believed in. And I was aware now that I was doing this because that's what everybody was just saying.
Right.
Right. And I had already spent like 12 years or something like that talking about how terrible all these systems were. Like I was known for this. I was known for this in medical school. I was known for this in residency. Like I talked about it all the time. So I finally got to a place where that said, like, if you're constantly talking about this, you know what you don't want to do. So then at some point, you just have to cut this. You just have to, cut it clean. But I still wasn't able to. Like the pressures were still so much that I couldn't leave. And at that time, my son had a burn injury to his hand. And that just pretty much cut the tape. I was like, okay. As soon as he had the injury that day, I knew. I was like, I'm leaving conventional medicine. Welcome to my new life.
I think what I love about this is like when you share that progression, because, all the time and the hours working and the fear, we've talked about that, like hopping out of a traditional system that tells you how you're going to treat, and now you're breaking out into a whole realm of implementing all different modalities that you're free to implement, because someone who's seeking you wants alternative care. But they also want to know that, wait a minute, I've got an MD here, but I've got an MD that believes in frequency. I have an MD that believes in generational trauma. I have an MD. So that when we start bringing out those, so you had started, like how I had originally found you was you were doing deep prescribing. And because I'm a part of that sector, and you still dabble, but you have really pioneered where you're getting into women's health and wanting to focus on preventative, because I think what all of us are seeing, I'm a certified health coach in this arena, and I'm trained in nutrition and orthomolecular. And I think one of the biggest things that when I'm talking to people that's hard for me is there's a disconnect that mental health is so many faceted. We somehow want to believe that this one little tiny pill is going to solve the problem. And it's so much more complicated than that. It really is. And so, we have neurotoxicity that can be occurring to people. We have generational trauma. We have PTSD. Undoubtedly, after doing this for 12 years, there's not a person I talk to where it doesn't start with, well, it all started back in 19, and I had this traumatic experience, and my dad did this to me, or I was in college, or I was picked on at school. And I wrote an article recently about this subject where I said, can we really medicate trauma? Can we do it?
Right.
Can we really do it? Can we medicate being chubby? Can we medicate being acne and getting teased at school? Can we medicate that you were an immigrant child who couldn't speak English?
Right.
Would the medication help through a divorce? Undoubtedly, probably. But to me, my feeling on this subject is there's a window of time that can be beneficial maybe for a person, and there's no judgment at all. Matter of fact, I say this repetitively through any podcast. Please don't ever see this as a red light or a green light to just take yourself abruptly off of any of these medications. That's what we're not advocating for.
Right.
But what we're here trying to do is show that there are doctors like yourself. There are people who are highly trained who are saying, hang on, I'm over here and I'm doing something different, and I'm having some pretty damn good results. The problem is you don't have Pfizer backing you.
Right.
So all you have is saying your results that you've gotten for people. Share with me, because, you know, we both are voraciously into so many things, because this is my quest. I want to show it and prove it myself. I'm a normal person. I've gone through divorce and loss and trauma
Yep.
and have my own health issues. We all do. And so there's a reason that we get into these fields. But I'd love to hear,
Yeah.
because you've shared some of the modalities that you start pulling into your practice that you help people with.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you bring up a really amazing point. The truth is, I think I went into medicine to understand myself.
Yep.
That's just the simple truth. I went into psychiatry to understand my family lineage. I come from a tremendous amount of mental illness in my family. Tremendous, like any type, shape, diagnosis, think you can think of, I have it in my lineage. And so, really, I think I was I was 17. The first time I realized and asked for help, because I knew that how I was feeling internally could not possibly be what life is about. So that's really when my quest started. What is this all about, and how will I feel peace internally? And that's what took me through med school. That's what took me to psychiatry. That's what took me out of psychiatry, right? Because I got to a place where I said, okay, the answer is not in the pill. The answer is not in the expert. I've seen tons of experts. I played the role of the expert, and it turns out that is not the answer. So then what is the answer? And it turns out that the simple answer is that the answer lies in our narratives, in our stories, in the self-compassionate inquiry, in understanding our parts and patterns. And once we can understand the mental paradigms and parts and patterns that have been running all of our lives, then we can actually descend into our soma, into our body, and understand, okay, what has this body been holding? How has this body been imprinted and wired throughout all these experiences, including our lineage? And so that's really what I do, right? It's like, I mean, utilize a lot of different modalities, but at the end of the day, it's all about giving permission for experiencing, giving permission for decoding, actually allowing the sensations and the cues within the body to guide processes. And of course, like supporting the body in terms of, biophysiology, right? Or neuroimmunology, however you want to look at it, because that's a real thing too.
The one thing, though, Zay, I would say, Dr. Zay,
No, you can call me Zay.
I lovingly say, Zay, I've seen you in action. And what I mean by that is you're kind of minimizing. I still feel as if there's masters that we're going towards, whether or not it's something. We all are needing someone that says, hang on just a minute, follow me, I've been where you've been. Or let me show you some of these new things that I've learned and implemented. But I've seen you in action de-escalate situations, or people that I thought, where you could see into their psyche where that root fear was coming from. Where a normal doctor would say, well, that's an anxiety attack. Or that's any of the diagnoses, we can say, any of them, okay? But we can label it, and we can say, well, that's fine, that's the action. But what was different about what I got to experience and witness with you was you actually identifying what you felt as if that root, where it was coming from. And I'll be damned, it was right, man. It was like that. It was almost like a light of an epiphany being brought to light. And it wasn't the typical things that people say. That's all I can't get into divulging, obviously private, but I'm saying some of the typical psyche things that psychiatrists and psychologists say is not how you treat people. That's why I love you as this unconventional firefly that's out there in this world of darkness, because you are bringing like a whole new specialty of saying, look, I'm doing it this way. So if you want this, like I tell people all the time, there's no harm. What we're doing, what the point of the podcast isn't to say this is right, this is wrong.
Right.
The point of it is to say there are thousands and thousands of people that are doing unbelievable things in this field. And it's up to you what feels right for you. Now, I personally have seen you in action, and it's pretty impressive. I've seen you identify certain things and things that I thought would not be able to resolve to instantaneously get it resolved, you know. And I'm sitting over there like, look, have they got in their fats for the day? Because I do that. And have you got your, you know, did the supplements? Did you drink enough? And I do timeline healing because I believe in generational work as well. But to see that sort of thing work in action is really exceptional. And the idea that you're really starting to do, like, you're moving so much because we both feel so strongly about this. We have to start moving into prevention. We have to start working with people that are adamantly like you or I, like any of us, that are saying, I got this going on and I need to figure out a new way to deal with it.
Exactly.
Xanax isn't working anymore.
Xanax is not working.
Right? Or whatever. I mean, whatever you're just choosing to do. So you're in the process of doing and curating some very unique retreats, which we'll have links later on. They're not all finalized as far as your dates, but you're also talking about going back to Turkey and bringing back groups of people to experience a spiritual retreat in Turkey. And this, I cannot wait to be a part of with you.
Me too. I'm so excited for that.
You're talking about, you know, upstate New York and in Sedona area of offering wellness retreats. Do you want to kind of elaborate and give us little teasers as to what you've got in mind, what you're working on?
Yep. Yeah. So just to circle back a little bit, the notion you're speaking of, like seeing me in action, I really love stories. I genuinely love like acutely listening to a story and being able to connect the dots and see the whole tapestry.
Right.
That just gives me so much joy, like to understand where someone is coming from. And it's so interesting to me that it even baffles me a little bit. Like every time I listen to someone, I really do have a beginner's mind.
Right.
Just because that's naturally what I'm interested in. Like, I'm not interested in labeling someone. I'm not interested in saying, oh, you are in this category, you're in that category. I come alive seeing someone who's been boxed up in a category, being able to hear their story and be like, oh, I understand now why you've been put in this box and this box and this box. And in reality, you don't really belong to any boxes. You just have this thread. You just have this storyline. And to be able to reflect that back to a person and see their eyes light up like they've felt free and seen for the first time ever is just one of the greatest joys to me. So,
and that's I would say one of the, I mean, I've personally got to witness you in action and seeing that, and that, you know, realization that person had of what it really was kind of like a psychic intuitive guide. Felt like you used your guides, and it was a very spiritual, almost awakening moment, like even for that individual, but also just to see it, you could see the transformation because it was more like, oh yeah, you're right. This is where it's coming from. But different in a sense, like I said, a normal psychologist, it comes from, I'm hearing all your story. You hear the stories, but I'm saying it feels psychically led as to where that block is. Right.
It is. I did not know this until I stepped out of the system and really started connecting to my psychic abilities. But it is that I get downloads, direct downloads. And that's why it lands as such truth for people. It's not something I sat down and formulated.
Right.
I have tremendous spiritual help that guides me to guide this person. So it's a channeling, as well as, you know, like I use my medical background to it just helps people feel better to say, okay, you're a doctor, you've seen
Right,
these cases, you've seen all of these, but you can see something different in me. Like, wow, that's like the best of both worlds. And in reality, it's just, I'm a human. I'm a
right.
human whose channel is open, who's also trained in medicine.
Well,
So
the
it's just a
uniqueness,
good
though, because you're
combo.
trained in medicine, but like you love the arts, so you heal through the
Yeah.
arts. You're very much into like artistic and like people to
Yeah.
curate through the arts, you know. So there's a lot of different non-traditional senses. You know, a lot of people do art therapy, but I don't know too many people that go see a MD to go, you know, to start seeing where that actually lands them, so that the MD is actually part of digesting that art and helping them differentiate that and what that actually is meaning. So, you know, whether it's frequency, you love voice, you love
I
dance,
love.
you
Mhm.
truly are an artist.
I
You,
am.
you really are. I mean, every
Yeah.
sense of the form, like, you know, the ecstatic dance, the art, the things. And that's why I think, you know, you and I, like, I resonate with you and love working with you so much, because I feel like that's what's missing in our system. We repetitively show that this is what's healing our society. It's healing
Hmm.
people. It really
Hmm.
is. And I think as a
Absolutely.
whole, like we were talking, but I mean, some of the retreats you're working on, like the burned out professional woman, we can
Yeah.
relate to that.
Yeah. I mean,
We
that's
were
why we
talking
created
about that,
it.
right? It's
Yeah.
like women, we're at all these different phases, okay? We're the single parent, we're now paying, we're paying, even if you have a partner, children, trying to maintain everything and juggle it all. And I think that women as a whole, we've lost, I speak for myself, lost so much of the feminine side and the femininity into us being these boss bitches out there, just
Yes.
we're going to get
Mhm.
this done and we have to get this done. And the truth is, we really honestly want that side of us cultivated and recognize that's an unhealthy part of us that's taken over. And
Absolutely.
so we were talking about like the burned out. You were saying how I was excited about that retreat, thinking, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you know, a retreat for burned out professional women. These are
Mhm.
going to be so well received, because we all want that 3-day weekend with girlfriends, to be able to connect with women, to have long lasting friendships, to cry openly about our
Absolutely.
stresses, but also develop new methods to deal with it. So, I
Yeah.
mean, some of your stuff, like you said, the art, the dance, what,
I mean, those modalities saved my life.
right,
Like, the truth is, the reason why I'm first an artist, like I was an artist way before I was an MD,
right,
right? Because I come from a tremendous amount of pain. I've experienced a lot of pain in my childhood, in my early adulthood, a lot of not belonging, you know, having been uprooted, being just an outsider that didn't fit in. Even in my family, you know, early on in my younger years, I felt alone a lot. You know, there was just a lot of chaos in my life. And so art is was my way to stay alive.
wow,
I got into art very early on because life around me was not it was there was a lot of suffering. And through art I was able to just create a world that could sustain me and that life flame
right.
rather than, you know, be beaten down. And then once I immigrated to the US, again, I mean, there was so much traumas around that. I just discovered that there was an art studio in, you
I think
know,
hearing
the school.
your story, because when you talk about that you and your mom immigrated here and you didn't know the language and you moved to Ohio,
Yes.
Ohio, and I mean, your mom's
So a
no
very white and
slouchy
affluent
pediatrician. We're
community.
talking about a Duke University, you know, it's your lineage of who you work with. Like you
Yeah.
said, you brought it all forward. So, I think that when you hear this story, that's what I swear someday a movie or a book will be, you will write this, just because um, I can't speak for other people, but these are the doctors I want to see.
Mm.
I'm interested in seeing someone who understands trauma, who understands change, who understands women's needs, who understands a holistic approach to mental health, You know, we were joking that, you know, one of our favorite words is kookaloo. And the reason that we say that is because really honestly, we all are degrees of kookaloo.
Yeah.
We really
Flavor of
are.
Cougar. We
You're
all have one.
kookaloo. That was your son's and yours words. You know, we were joking about that. And we were saying it, but we were saying we need to destigmatize because we all are. I'm
Absolutely.
so tired of it saying people
Absolutely.
have mental health. We all have mental health. What are you talking about? We have health, you have mental health, period. It's to what
Absolutely.
degree we deal with, period. And
Hmm.
what is related to that is what kind of trauma that people have in their lives, whether or
Yeah.
not they have economic trauma. There's a lot of facets as to what kind of delegates these sectors of people who are vastly suffering. My goal is one human to the other, is I promise I'm going to bring
Yes.
forward people that are making tremendous shifts. This is available for all. People
Absolutely.
can learn, just like you said, when
Yep.
you were a young kid, you did art.
Yep.
Now you bring it into your practice. So it's a big part of your practice. So do you want to elaborate any more about some of the other modalities that you're going to be doing for the future for your
Yeah, I mean,
retreats?
right now I'm super stoked about art expression. Because I'm like now having this return back to, so I've painted, many years in my life, but now I have this new devotion to painting, specifically dancing and singing. I'm in this new era of my life where I'm just really alchemizing in a different way. I'm not just making art to survive, but I'm actually making art because I want to alchemize and I want to understand the next layers. And so as initially I was just following this yearning, right? Because I'd been doing deep prescribing for a while, and I really got to a place where I love helping people come off of psych meds. And also, I've learned that doing that without a team and without serious resources is really difficult.
Right.
And so, in that context, I started really turning into like, what is alive in me now that really wants to come out and be manifest?
Right.
And I realized, okay, I want to make art. I want to go back to painting. And I really want to now devote. I've actually made a promise that I'm going to paint every day, no matter what, for the next 30 years, even if it's just 5 minutes. Because I really believe in expressive arts so much. What you cannot access that's in your subconscious, at times you can really easily access with art, for instance. Like painting is an amazing medium. You can, you know, amorphously paint, draw anything, and you will see, I mean, for the trained eye, you will be able to see all sorts of things that you couldn't talk about, that you couldn't, I don't know how long it would take you in psychoanalysis or whatever, but
Right.
and the other thing is dancing and singing, because I'm now again in this new phase of my life where I've realized, holy smokes, I've been so busy in my masculine form and in my masculine body, like doing, performing, accomplishing, getting the certifications, becoming a mom, working, starting a business, doing it all, like turned into this super woman that's a man. That I realized, oh man, like this is not sustainable, nor do I want to be a man. Like, I don't actually want to be a man. I don't want to be a
Right.
boss bitch. I
Right.
don't. I have
Right.
zero desire to be a boss bitch. So, what do I want to do? And that's where dancing and singing really started coming through my field. And holy moly, once I really started spending time with these three modalities, of course, in addition to like, I have a daily practice, right? Like, I have a silence practice, I have a chanting practice, I have a meditation practice that I do every day. Those
Right.
aren't, they don't go anywhere. They're there every single day. I might change what meditation I do. Like right now, I'm really into Joe Dispenza's course. I'm completing that. So, I changed another meditation I do for that, but I'm always meditating. I'm always sitting in silence every day. I'm chanting every day. So, in addition to those, I started doing art, making art. And it has been so healing for me, so healing for me that I realized this is what I want to bring out into the world, because I know if I've gone through the difficulties of giving myself permission to practice these things, I know other women are.
Right.
You know, it took me a long time to get to a place where I was like, oh, I'm okay to just sit down and paint for an hour. I can do my morning practices for an hour, and then I can make art for an hour. It is actually very valuable for me to take 2 hours today or 3 hours today, right? But a lot of women, especially like really highly accomplished, oh my God, 1 second. Highly accomplished women, we don't even give ourselves permission, because that's where I started.
Right.
When I started thinking about, man, I want to feel free. I want to take a nap. I would give myself maybe a 15-minute break on my penf mat. And then after that, I'd be like, okay, I gotta get up. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. Right? Like, it was so hard for me. I mean, man, when I first started, I realized I wasn't even giving myself permission to go pee.
Yeah.
I would hold my pee until I couldn't hold it anymore. Like, it's a very deep, deep, deep programming, right? That
I
we're
agree. I think women as a whole, it's like we'll do that and then we become resentful, and you know,
exactly.
we're wonderful martyrs because we go out and we serve all this and we do it for everyone, and then we get angry because nobody sees all the work that we do and appreciates us. And honestly, they
Exactly.
don't a lot of times. But the bottom line is we did it. We did that work, and you either do it out of that's what you want to do or you don't. But well, thank you, Dr. Demir, for coming and sharing your gifts. You
Thank
are a
you.
gift to the world. Um, we will have links below that will have Dr. Demir's website, so there'll be updates on retreats that she's going to be doing. I'm happy. I can't wait to see you roll out and be a part of helping you roll out women and specialty ones, you know, upstate New York, Sedona. Of course, it's a great place to come and dance on the rocks in Sedona.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, I think, amazing.
Yeah.
Like, in addition to, you know, the arts and the creativity, you and I have been talking about the auxiliary modalities we will
Right.
have, right? Like, anywhere from frequency sound healing to, you know, spa treatments,
Yep.
to naturopathic IV supplementation, nature bathing, contemplative time, free form writing, reflections around that. So it's not just creativity. There will be a lot of room for creative expression.
Right.
And also, though, there will be a lot of room for integration of the mental aspects
Right.
of the experience.
Right.
Because either one without the other, it kind of hangs, right? You really
Right.
need this holistic, rooted, kind of integrated approach, which I'm so excited for us
I
to
think that's the biggest thing is that
create.
I always say to every, you know, and I love that phrase that I'll say, it's not an anti-medicine movement. It's about why do you need your medicine? What is it that we need to do to make it so that we are our own medicine? We're eating it, we're living it, we're eliminating the stresses, we're eliminating the things that are causing, and if all means, like, are we living our medicine? We are our own
Absolutely.
medicine. But like you said, we don't give ourselves the freedom to believe that that is viewed as something that's good. We're lazy, we're doing this, if we're not doing. But actually, when we start mirroring that for our children and our loved ones, we're better spouses, we're better parents, and better employees if we're working with people, you know, because it's like we're taking the time to actually be mentally well. And, you know, regardless, like I said, here I'm in this field, I'm a mental health coach. It doesn't matter. That's something I have to implement. You have to. It doesn't mean that our lives go away. It doesn't mean that we have perfect relationships, that we have children that don't cause us strife. It doesn't mean we don't get sick or we have hormone issues, or
Yep.
there's a host of things. And by humanizing this and
Yes.
realizing we all have different degrees of it. So I
Absolutely.
promise every single week we're just going to keep pumping out and have more and more people for you to connect with, and opportunities to connect with retreats one-on-one. You can contact Dr. Demir. You can also follow her online. We've got links for her social media. She frequently is online speaking about all of these different subjects that she's passionate about. Of course, that's how I found her. And I think of her as a dear friend at this point, because anytime I find a doctor like this, I go, yeah, I get super excited, just because there's so many people looking for individuals like yourself that are speaking out for the betterment of treatment. And I love this movement towards preventative, because I honestly feel that we all need to reboot and also learn how to prevent a lot of these things from happening.
Absolutely. I mean, starting with water.
Oh,
Right
yeah.
now, I'm like most obsessed with water and like the crystalline structure. And
Yep.
I mean, I'm literally living in Costa Rica right now because I was like, I have to make a change.
Yeah.
I have to go somewhere where I am so immersed
Yeah.
in nature
Yeah.
that I have no option but to just get that like healing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, think about it. Like, when I look at many places in the US, I'm like, this is awful. This is why we are so sick. Like, our soil is fully leached, our waters have no minerals.
Yeah.
And these are like the two most important medicines. This is how
Right.
we stay alive.
Right.
Clean air, clean water, nutritious food.
Right. And people connecting.
Absolutely. Social
Thank
connection.
goodness.
Absolutely.
That's why
so,
this
yeah.
platform has been created. I mean, Humankind centers are going to be throughout the world, and that's the whole point, is that we need one another to start communing and
Amen.
connecting to heal the planet, to heal people.
Amen.
And so this beautiful movement that's being featured on Humankind Center, that's the point. We are going to heal one another by giving resources and constant learning. Matter of fact, maybe next time we'll get you to actually share some of your meditations that you do, and maybe some of your chanting. That would be great, like doing some lives where we could actually show some deep breathing and meditations that you actually implement and bring on to your people. I'd love to do that with you. So thank you, Dr. Demir, for taking the time and being a part of Revolutionary Mental Health. And you are the future. You really are. I love you. We're here to change the world, and we're not alone. We're going to do this.
Let's go.
Let's go. Yay.